For most of the last 30 years, memory was the part of a computer you never had to think about. It was cheap. When your machine felt slow, you just added more. That era is ending. In 2026, the price of memory is climbing faster than at almost any point in its history. And the reason isn't a factory fire or a natural disaster. It's a decision about who gets the chips and who doesn't. This is the control room. The systems shift underneath the headlines without the hype or the fear. Today, why the AI boom is quietly repricing the memory in your laptop, your phone, and your game console, and whether it lasts. Start with the number, because it's the whole story. In 2026, AI data centers are on track to consume as much as 70% of the world's memory output. As recently as 2022, that share was 20 to 30. The reversal took 3 years. Here's why it reaches you. Just 3 companies, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, make almost all the world's memory. And they've pivoted their factories toward the kind AI wants most. High bandwidth memory, the stacks that feed an AI accelerator. It pays far better. So every wafer that becomes AI memory is a wafer that doesn't become a stick of RAM for a laptop. It's close to zero sum, and the appetite is staggering. A single top-end AI chip, NVIDIA's newest, carries 96 memory dies, the memory of dozens of laptops. A full AI server holds nearly 800. Multiply that by the millions of chips going into data centers this year, and you can see where the world's memory is going. The result shows up on price tags. The contract price for the memory that goes into AI servers rose nearly 90% in a single quarter early this year, a record. And Gartner expects the combined memory and storage cost surge to reach about 130% by the end of the year. On a new PC, memory used to be 15 to 18% of the cost. HP now says it's around 35%. And the makers are saying it out loud, with real prices on the record. Nintendo raised the Switch 2 by $50 this year to $500, citing memory chip costs. Microsoft raised the Xbox on August 1st up to $150 a console and said in writing that storage and memory costs had risen, quote, more than 2.5 times, with another doubling expected by late 2027. Graphics cards climbed. AMD and NVIDIA both raised prices this year. Phones, pre-built machines, all pulled up by the same current as last year's fixed-price contracts expire. The clearest signal of all, Micron shut down Crucial, the consumer memory brand it had run for 29 years, to concentrate on the data center. When the maker walks away from your shelf, that tells you who the factory is for. So is this just another shortage that sorts itself out? Or something that doesn't? That's the argument worth staying for. Here's the honest part, and the reason this isn't a panic video. Memory is the most cyclical business in technology. Booms and busts, over and over. And the skeptics have a real case, because we just watched the last bust. In 2023, this same market cracked. Prices fell around 20% a quarter. Every maker was losing money, and Samsung cut its output by roughly half just to stop the bleeding. New factories are being built now. Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung are all expanding. History says that when fresh capacity finally arrives, it floods the market and prices crash, exactly as they did then. And there's a mechanism behind it. A new memory democracy costs billions and takes well over a year to build, so it almost always comes online after the surge that justified it, right in time to create a glut. By that logic, this is the top of a cycle, not a permanent shift. There's a second catch, this one about the scary number itself. That 70% is a share of memory output. But measured by factory wafer space, the analysts at TrendForce put AI closer to 20%, because the memory AI uses eats several times the area per gigabyte. Both figures are true. They just measure different things. And there are wildcards. AI could get more memory efficient, or the spending could slow. So the bear case is coherent. This could be a steep, ordinary cycle dressed up as a revolution. The makers disagree. They no longer call it cyclical. They call it a structural reallocation, and they've locked in multi-year contracts to prove they mean it. The high-end AI memory is already sold out for the year. Micron alone is pouring around $200 billion into new U.S. plants, but the first isn't expected to produce memory until 2027, and Micron's own chief executive says the shortage could run longer still. Even when relief comes, the likely result is a higher baseline, not a return to old prices. So hold two things at once. The squeeze is real and severe. Whether it's permanent or just the steepest part of a cycle is genuinely contested. Strip away that disagreement, and both sides agree on the thing that actually changed. Memory used to be priced by the people building phones and laptops. Now it's priced by the people building AI. Whoever pays the most sets the line, and ordinary buyers are last in it. You can watch it in what's shipping. New machines arrive with the bare minimum of memory instead of comfortable headroom. The base Dell XPS 13 now ships with 8 gigabytes, half of what became standard. And across budget laptops, 8 gigabytes is quietly back. Phone makers are holding memory flat instead of raising it, a kind of quiet shrinkflation. You pay the same and get less. The squeeze is big enough that in analysts' downside case, the PC and phone markets actually contract this year by as much as 9% and 5%, not for lack of buyers, but for lack of affordable parts. The question was never really whether prices are high today. It's who controls the wafers. 3 companies make about 90% of the world's memory, and in June, a lawsuit was filed alleging they restricted supply in concert to keep prices up. That claim is unproven. The companies haven't answered it in court, and a market this concentrated can keep prices high with no illegal deal at all. But it's worth knowing the history. 20 years ago, 2 of these same 3 were caught running exactly that kind of cartel. Samsung paid a $300 million criminal fine. SK Hynix's predecessor paid $185. The third, Micron, turned witness and escaped the penalty. So the pattern isn't hypothetical. It's happened before with these names. Either way, the scoreboard isn't the sticker on the shelf. It's an allocation decision made 2 steps upstream, in a clean room you will never see. Step back, and it's a pattern this channel keeps meeting. The AI boom has a physical footprint, and it keeps landing in places nobody watching the models thinks to look. First, it was the chips themselves. Then, as we traced in our last report, the electricity in the grid. Now it's the memory. Each time, a commodity that everyone quietly depends on gets repriced by a buyer it was never built for. And each time, the bill travels. It lands on someone with no stake in the AI race at all. A student buying a laptop, a parent buying a console, a small shop replacing a worn-out server. They didn't join the boom. They're helping pay for it at the checkout. That's the part the announcements leave out. The models get the headlines. The cost gets distributed, quietly, downstream, to everyone else. And the leverage shifts too, toward whoever controls the scarce thing. For a generation, that was whoever wrote the best software. Increasingly, it's whoever owns the factory. The same handful of companies spending around $650 billion on AI this year are the buyers locking up the memory and the electricity and the land. The boom concentrates, the cost spreads. So, is AI making your electronics more expensive? Yes, measurably, right now. Is it forever? The people who make the chips say this is the new normal. History says every memory boom has eventually ended. The honest answer is that we don't know yet, but the direction for now is not in dispute. So watch the wafers, not the headlines. Watch who the factories are building for. That's the signal. And the old instinct, wait for a sale, is for once the wrong one. The sales aren't coming back soon. This is the control room. Here's the pattern. The implications are yours. If tracing the shift underneath the headlines is worth your week, subscribe. The Signal, every week. One last thing, as always. The voice you have heard is AI. The images include company press and product materials, used to report on the companies named, alongside open licensed footage. None are AI-generated depictions of real events. Every figure was researched and checked by a human, and every source and image credit is listed in the description. The Control Room. The Signal, every week.